All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's neighborhood meeting. My name is Jaspreet Sidhu, and I'm a planner with the city's Development Services Department. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to present to you the neighborhood, a development concept being considered by the owner and development team of 518, 520, 522, and 524 Tiffin Street. Prior to a formal development application being submitted to the city, this provides an opportunity for the development team to hear initial community feedback and incorporate it into the plan prior to making a full and formal development application to the city. Please be aware that we are recording this meeting for the public record. The recording will be used for the purposes of garnering your input and to respond to inquiries and will be considered public information. Please also be aware that the registered attendees tonight, your mailing or email address will be added to the mailing list so that you can receive further information about this application as it progresses. Should you have any questions regarding the collection, please contact the Development Services Department. I would also like to let everyone know that there are staff behind the scenes managing the technology tonight. They're here to make sure the meeting runs smoothly, to grant participants the opportunity to speak, and to assist with any questions in the chat. Please bear with us if we have any issues. And if for some reason you get disconnected, please feel free to log in again. The intent of tonight's meeting is to provide members of the public with an opportunity to become familiar with the development application and the planning review process, and to also ask the applicant questions and provide feedback. What to expect during the virtual neighborhood meeting, a brief overview of the city's review process and timing, a presentation from the applicant's representative describing the proposal, and an opportunity to ask questions of either the applicant or city staff, and provide comments or identify concerns with the application. What not to expect. City staff's recommendation on the application or a detailed analysis of the proposal, as this will occur on a later date in the review process, and a debate on the merits of the proposal between city staff and the applicant. Before we get into the presentation, I just want to quickly highlight the next steps in the application process. The neighborhood meeting is established early in the development process to ensure local concerns are incorporated or addressed through the city's review. After this meeting, we expect that the applicant will make a formal submission for this development project. Formal submissions undergo a full technical review and must address comments received from this neighborhood meeting from the city's technical departments and external agencies, and from members of the public more broadly. In conjunction with this, a statutory meeting will be held virtually on the application planning committee. At a public meeting, the applicant presents their application in council, answers questions, and provides an overview of the response to any issues, concerns identified during a prior neighborhood meeting. As part of the public meeting, members of the public also have an opportunity to provide verbal or written comments. Following a public meeting, staff will continue the review process and applicants will make any necessary revisions to the development proposal. Once the review has concluded, a staff recommendation report is brought forward to council for their consideration. All comments received throughout the review process, including those received at the neighborhood and public meeting, are identified and addressed in the staff report and form part of staff's recommendation on the subject application. A staff report for this particular application would likely be brought forward to council sometime in 2022 or 2023. I will now move on to the applicant's presentation. As I mentioned, the proposed project and application will be presented first, which we will follow with question and comment period. So tonight we are focusing on the zoning bylaw and official plan amendment proposed at 518, 520, 522, and 524 Tiffin Street. The applicant's planner is Barrie Clement from the Jones Consulting Group, and the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw and official plan is to accommodate an industrial development for the outdoor storage of goods and materials and will utilize the existing building as office and warehouse space. I'll now hand over the meeting controls over to Barrie, who will first introduce themselves and then share the presentation on the proposed development.
Thank you. I'm just going to set my share screen up. Okay. So thank you for the introduction. My name is Brandy Clement. I'm the project planner, as mentioned, from the Jones Consulting Group. I'm here to introduce to you a proposed project for the lands located at 518 and 518 to 524, Tiffin Street. With me this evening are the owners of the property, as well as the project engineer, the project landscape architect, as well as the project environmental consultant. And after I make my brief presentation, we will be available to answer any questions that you may have. So the lands are located between Dunlop Street West and Ferndale Drive. They're along Tiffin Street. They're actually made up of 4 properties in total, but they will be developed as one parcel. The lot area is approximately 0.5 hectares in area, as well as the frontage is approximately 73 meters along Tiffin Street. The property is currently utilized by an existing building on the northeast corner of the site that was previously used, as well as there was some previously disturbed areas used for open space by the last owner. Surrounding land uses include a variety of different types of uses, but primarily this is an area in the city of Barrie that's historically been used for different types of industrial uses. You can see from what we've outlined on this slide that there is a mixture of industrial uses that would include fleet storage. We have some outdoor storage across the street to the south, a wrecking yard, automobile shops or service shops. There's a recycling facility, there's an industrial supply store, and then further north on Dunlop Street, we have a mix of commercial and industrial uses as well. Immediately adjacent to the north of the lands, there is a property that is designated and zoned for future commercial uses. And then adjacent to the property, particularly to the west, we have a single detached dwelling that is used as a residential use. As I mentioned, the lands, the previous owner who had the lands used the property as an outdoor storage area for part of it. So there is quite a disturbed area on the property already. So these pictures just give you an idea of what the uses sort of look like around the area, primarily along Tiffin Street, but we've also provided up in this corner here, we provided a picture on the north side of Dunlop Street just to show you a different type of sort of commercial industrial use along that area. Currently, the lands are designated in the City of Barrie's official plan as environmental protection area. And they are zoned as environmental protection EP. Now, what you can see from not only this slide, but the slide before that identifies the designation is that the lands on the north side of Tiffin Street, primarily as they have developed over time, the designation and the zoning has been changed. You can see where you have the purple in this area, we have industrial uses, the commercial uses, and then there are sort of these remnant parcels that are left over that are showing as environmental protection uses. The properties have structures on them that have been that way for decades. And there just hasn't been applications that have come forward recently that has had a need for the designation or the zoning schedules or policies to be updated accordingly in the city's official plan or zoning bylaw. So what are we proposing? This is an illustration of the development concept. As it was mentioned by Jaspreet before I started, what we're proposing on these lands is to use the site for outdoor storage and indoor storage that would occupy the existing building or the existing structure in the northeast corner. The people who own the property, the owners of this property, own Pioneer Pools. And so Pioneer Pools has their retail and office uses in their main building, as well as their current storage location is at 42 Ann Street South. They've quickly outgrown this area in terms of the storage that is located at the back of this property. So they have been looking for some time now to find a location that's not only close enough to their current location, but that's in an appropriate area of Barrie to house some of their needs and what they require for outdoor storage to build their different structures. So of course they build in above ground and below ground pools, as well as spas. They provide that service and have that use for you to go into their building on Ann Street. In retail, they have spas in there. You can go in and meet with the different salespeople. They also have some service in that area. But as I mentioned, that building has the existing storage compound. It's located at the back of the building. They also have a tenant that they rent to at the back of that existing building. This tenant has a number of people in and out on a daily basis into that business. And they also have a lot of deliveries on a daily basis for that particular business. The driveway for entering that business and for the deliveries is directly adjacent to the driveway for the storage compound that Pioneer Pools utilizes, where their delivery trucks come in and out, as well as their construction vehicles come in and out. So not only sometimes are there safety conflicts in this area or just strictly traffic conflicts, but with all the pedestrians that are added to that use that is rented, it becomes a bit of a concern. On top of that, there has been, because the storage location right now being behind the building in a street or on a street in an area that really doesn't have in the evenings a lot of traffic, we'll say, there's been a lot of vandalism in this back area. So it's felt that if that part of the business can move over to Tiffin Street in an appropriate location, there's maybe some more eyes on the street in that location. It's more of a visible area for security reasons, for traffic reasons, it's in a better location. And that's why they're looking at moving this component of their business over to this site. So on a daily basis, what they'll have, the site will be occupied for the materials that will be needed to construct their above ground and their below ground pools, as well as their spas. They will occupy the property, or they'll have the need to be visiting the property, I should say, mainly in the spring, summer, and fall, not really something where you'll see people there in the winter time. And basically on a daily basis, the construction crew will show up, they'll drive into the site. You'll see that we have two what are proposed as mechanical gated accesses at this location. They are inset somewhat into the property simply because it avoids any stacking along Tiffin Street for safety reasons. If a vehicle or two vehicles are pulling up to get into the site in the morning, they're not having to stop on Tiffin, get out of their car. They should just have a button anywhere where they're opening the gate, but if they had to get out of their car to open the gate, this way there isn't a lineup of traffic or stacking of traffic on Tiffin Street. So it has been inset a little bit into the site. So they'll pull in, they'll drive in, they'll go to the materials that they need for that day. There could be a trailer sitting on the property that they'll hook onto, and then whether they leave in the same driveway they came out of or the other driveway, it doesn't matter. And then they'll leave the site for the day. They'll come back at the end of the day and they'll drop everything off, leave their trailer or whatever it is that they'll leave there, and then they'll leave for the day. There will be no public access to this site. So this is not a landscape depot that you see in other locations where people can pull in and load their vehicles or their trailers up with topsoil and pull out. This is not what the intended use is. This is only intended for Pioneer's business, and that's all it will be used for. So there is no need for the public to be visiting this site. There will be the odd time where delivery vehicles will have to come to the site to drop different things off. My understanding is they're not necessarily large transport vehicles, but more mid-sized delivery vehicles. Not certain of the actual timing of when they would come and how often, but from what I understand, this would not be on a daily basis. The gated and the mechanized gates in these locations also allow for security in that people can't just drive into the business at any time of the day when they feel like it. The existing warehouse building will actually be used for just as for warehouse and storage. They have some items, some equipment, things that really should be either stored indoors or for security reasons should be indoors that they'll be putting in this location. There will actually be no office use on the property at this time. We are showing that on the concept, and that's our area to take off. But They, as I say, they have their existing office facility located on Ann Street. And so the intent is not to have someone sitting here full time at this time anyway, because it's not there. It's not really necessary at this point. Part of the project will include a road widening along Tiffin Street, which you can see in this location. And that will be along the whole frontage of Tiffin. It's a 5-meter road widening. This has been requested by the city of Barrie, and this will allow for any future road improvements or widenings that the city would like to do in the future along Tiffin Street. And then the property itself will be fully fenced for security reasons mainly. There will be extra plantings and screenings as well as a buffer or a berm provided along Tiffin Street with a more upgraded or aesthetically pleasing fence along the Tiffin Street frontage. So there's applications that do need to be submitted to facilitate this proposed use on the lands. The first application being an official plan amendment application, and this will redesignate the lands to the general industrial exception designation, and that permits the proposed land use. There's also a zoning bylaw amendment application that we will need to submit, which implements the official plan designation. It will zone the lands to general industrial special exception, which permits the land uses and then identifies any varied development standards that we may be proposing. And then if those are successful moving forward in the future, there would be a site plan control application that would be submitted to the city. So there's a number of technical work that does need to be completed for a complete submission to be submitted to the city of Barrie. Those are currently underway right now. This lists all of the studies and reports that we're currently preparing. So they include a planning report, a functional servicing and stormwater management report, geotechnical report, hydrogeological assessment, an archaeological assessment, an environmental impact study, a tree inventory and preservation plan, and a screening form for source water protection. So all of these will be put together and will form part of the complete submission application when we do submit to the city of Barrie. And certainly once a submission is made, all of these would be available for review, I would think online or at the city's planning department. So what are the next steps in timing? We have completed a pre-consultation submission as well as a meeting with the city of Barrie, and this was done in September of 2021. Our work in progress, as I mentioned on the previous slide, we have a number of technical studies and reports that are being prepared currently. We're here tonight, which we've outlined in the red, to request any feedback from the residents, to get any comments from you at this meeting. We are then going to move forward with our submission for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application, as well as all the supporting materials that we will include. We're hoping to do that by the end of this month, March of 2022. And then once that's submitted, sometime in the future, when deemed appropriate, the city will determine a date for a statutory public meeting, which will be held at council. So thank you. That is all that I have, Jaspreet, and we're certainly here to answer any questions that you may have.